June 25th, 2019, Oshkosh Common Council. Clerk, would you please take the roll?
Excuse me, Peschel,
Here.
Miller,
Here.
Allison Osby. Here. Herman,
Here.
Mugrower,
Here.
Prosey,
Here.
Palmieri,
Here.
present 7.
And Councilmember Peschel will lead us in the invocation and the pledge.
We come together this evening to discuss the issues that confront our city. May we always seek the wisdom to do things that reflect our concerns for the people whom we represent. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Next, we have several presentations, the first of which is the Grand Opera House season preview. Joe Furlow.
Good evening, Council. Thanks for having me. This is one of my favorite days of the year, to present you with the first 70 shows that are on the grand schedule for 2019-20. Fear not, I left the clips off, and we'll whip through them pretty quickly. But I assure you and those watching that there are some wonderful clips for many of these shows available on our website, thegrandoshkosh.org, and people can get a better sense of what we can do, what's going to happen as I whip through the season. We have, in addition to our regular season, 2 special events. What makes them special is that they're pretty giant, actually. They're larger than the norm. In some cases, they encompass all of northeastern Wisconsin. Other cases, they encompass hundreds of school kids. So I want to lead with those 2 special events. The first opens the season in September 26th, 27th, and 28th. It is the 4 Phantoms in concert, and these 4 gentlemen combined have performed the role of the Phantom of the Opera over 6,000 times in New York and London and Toronto and Las Vegas and San Francisco. And their special guest, Kaylee Voorhees, is currently playing Christine on Broadway. She has it written into her contract that on Tuesday that week she'll perform at the Majestic in New York, and then she'll get on a plane, and on Thursday she'll be performing on stage here in Oshkosh. It is the only performance in Northeast Wisconsin, and the only performance actually in Wisconsin of the 4 Phantoms. We have exclusivity. We'll be marketing this obviously to a much wider area, and we're looking forward to it. This show's been on sale for a little while, and about 35% of the tickets are already sold. So we're looking forward to a great opening. The second is a new concept, actually. It's a brand new event that we're looking forward to. It's called Fanfare, and it's part Comic-Con, and it's part student concert. Alpen Hong, the pianist and educator, has been here several times over the years. Each time he's here, we look for something a little bit bigger to do. And the last time he and I had a planning conversation, I asked him what he'd do if he had an arena. And so we sat together and we started to plan Fanfare. The centerpiece is a concert that's going to star over 300 local middle and high school musicians, artists, and singers. We have partnership already in line with the Oshkosh Public School System as well as Lord's Academy High School. And we're looking yet to, we've got one more candidate out there to find some students to play. It is an entirely student-driven program based on comic book and superhero themes. So we're looking forward to an absolutely fabulous night. In addition to this concert, the concourse of the arena is going to be turned into a giant STEAM, that's STEM with the arts in the middle of it, a STEAM petting zoo where kids will be able to wander up and down. They might be writing code for computers. They might be dealing with hands-on work. We're still developing all this right now. The partners have jumped forward, and this has really taken off. We looked for a model and found out there was not one. So I think Oshkosh is going to be under scrutiny in a really good way for this project. We're looking forward to that. It's in April. Alpen Hong will be here at least a couple of times during the year to work with students as well as working with them via Skype. We're looking forward to a great, great show. Then we have the 1920 season, which is what we just announced. It's now on sale to all donors. It's going to be on sale to the general public on July the 10th. Somewhere in between there, around 4th of July, the brochures should be arriving in mailboxes. We're starting local. Most of you know who Frankie Moscato is. She's a local 17-year-old who has shot up the consciousness of our community with her message, anti-bullying and suicide prevention, but also her talent, which led her all the way into the American Idol show. Frankie and her parents and I sat down together and we decided it was time to put her on stage at the Grand. And together we're working on a great performance that combines her own story, her own message, and some great music. She's got 3 local musicians of great caliber lined up. And it'll be a one of its kind, Frankie Moscato and her friends, on November the 2nd. We have 2 comedians in the series this year. Tom Papa is a wonderful observational comedian. Fans who watch him on NPR, he is a writer and frequent appear on Live From Here, which is the Garrison Keillor replacement show. He is a very funny guy, and I could almost say every word he says right here. It's going to be a pretty comfortable show, which is difficult to do with comedians. Tom Papa's here November 16th. The returning Christmas with the Celts, Christmas stuff is asked for all the time. Celtic music is asked for all the time. So we put it together with this great show, Christmas with the Celts. The Celts have been on PBS for years now, and the PBS special, this is the PBS special live on stage. We did have it here a few years ago, sold it out, and it's been asked for return, so it is on our schedule for the year. The Sweet Remains are an Americana folk group. We've got to put one of those in the season every year, simply because they sound so amazing in our intimate little Grand. So the Sweet Remains will be joining us on January the 17th. Jeff Allen, the America I Grew Up In tour. Jeff Allen is an absolutely clean comedian, which is fabulous. Doesn't mean he's not funny. Check out his stuff. The America I Live In refers to the way people of my generation and before grew up and how things have changed in the way we look for things. It's observational humor. It's terrific. Farewell Angelina may not be recognizable to the country music fans by name, but they have opened for probably 16 major country acts. And chances are, if you've seen a great country act, you may have seen Farewell Angelina. So we're thrilled to have some modern country. And for the people who want something a little more classic, James Garner's tribute to Johnny Cash. Those people who have followed my 15 years at Grand know that I don't take tributes lightly. It's about the music, and if they can't hit the music, I don't care if they put on a wig or put on a whatever or how they look. They got to know the music. This guy is spot on in his Johnny Cash stuff, but he doesn't pretend. You know, the hello, my name is Johnny Cash turns into hello, we love Johnny Cash. Then the music starts, and it's going to take people back. He does an absolutely fabulous show. Vivace is a crossover group. They do classical greatest hits, but they'll also sing 80s, 90s cover music. And one of the things I'm always searching for is something that will go for the younger audience as well as our traditional audience. And this group does a fabulous job, whether they're singing U2 or Vivaldi. So, and they'll probably do a little bit of both in the course of their show. Those are the set shows in the series. I should point out that one of the things that we're going to do this year is ad shows. As things come available, I'll look for the right deal, I'll look for the right weekend, and don't be surprised to see a comedian or a touring artist booked onto the stage in addition. We do have 3 classic fundraisers or friend-raisers. The Spirits of the Grand, part paranormal tour, part history lesson for the Grand, is back with its interactive tour guides. That's October the 23rd through the 26th at the Grand. I know you're excited to know this is back. I know you are. Oshkosh, Counselor, are you hanging your head?
Oh, come on.
Is the monitor capturing that? Oshkosh on Broadway is the most unique fundraiser. It puts local people on stage, raising money by performing for the benefit of our educational and our outreach programs. It's a great fun fundraiser, and as several of your colleagues, I know Councilor Peschel ran for council knowing and hoping that this was coming back. I know you did.
I was hoping for it.
I know, see, so there we go. The invitation will be out there, so look forward to it. And I'll make it easy, I'll make it painless, and I do hope you'll join us, because it's always a highlight of Oshkosh on Broadway, January 24th and 25th. And a grand night, which took a facelift last year. Yeah, we threw out the black tie, and we brought in the blue jeans, and we rocked the place, and people were standing and singing, dancing in the aisles for the whole night, and it is a great fundraiser, again, for education and outreach performances. Sorry that I'm ripping through this, but I know you have a full agenda. The arts partners are a very important part of our season and available as part of the season packages. The Oshkosh Symphony Orchestra is back with 2 performances, a holiday celebration in December, and a show celebrating 100 years of the suffragette movement, and a 250-year birthday of Ludwig van Beethoven, which I should be able to pronounce. So they're celebrating women and Beethoven, May the 2nd. Oshkosh Community Players has 3 shows in line for its season. Sylvia, which is a really funny comedy about a woman and a man and a dog that gets in between them and impacts the relationship. I can't tell you anything more. You'll have to come see it. Sylvia opens the Community Players season October 17th through 19th. Someplace Different is written by a local author. Brad Dockin will be writing his second show. He premiered a show a couple of years ago with Community Players, and Someplace Different will be February 28th through March the 7th, and they close with an all-time favorite, one of the biggest musicals in the American repertoire, The Music Man, May 15th through the 23rd, 2020. Our other resident theater is Hysterical Productions. They have 1 show this year, and it's a big one. It's A Midsummer Night's Dream, one of my favorite Shakespeare comedies. It closes the calendar for us, June 4th through 7th of 2020. Kind of new to our calendar, and I know you like to follow how the business model evolves for the Grand. We have more guest presenters, renters, promoters working with us this year than we've ever had previous, and obviously that's a really good thing for us because it helps us diversify what's on stage and do it in a way that brings some stuff to the stage that people really, really look forward to. The TEDx is one of those. We're so proud to host a TEDx here in Oshkosh, not only in Oshkosh, but here at the Grand. The Old Time Radio Drama Show, which is on public radio, they do that show live, you know, radio with the sound effects and all the other things that go along with it. They're bringing that show to the Grand. It's called There's Always a Woman, October the 11th. Dave Halston, Tribute Masters, brings his tribute to Frank Sinatra on stage to the stage, October the 12th. Dave and his big band. Not 1 but 2 tributes. Ipsy Productions presents Boys of Summer, which is the Don Henley tribute, and Barracuda, the Heart tribute, in one night. So it's 2 shows for the price of 1. Those first 3 shows I just mentioned are already on sale. Steve March Torbe, many of you know, and certainly a lot of folks know Michael Bailey from Vic Ferrari. The 2 of them approached me and said, gee, we'd like to do a holiday show. Could you use a holiday show? I said, well, yeah, that'd be great. So we put together what it might be, and they gave it the title for kids from 1 to 92. Those of you who are following the music know that that's a tribute to the Christmas song, which was written by Mel Torme, Steve's dad, and it's a lyric from the song show. They're also bringing in Mark Wood from the Trans-Siberian Orchestra. Mark has done some great shows here with kids in schools. His electric violin will be a great addition. This is going to be a great holiday show, big enough that we did 2 nights. ABBA Mania returns. This is kind of a reverse. We have the folks at the Menominee Nation Arena bringing a show to the Grand, where it's going to knock the roof off. ABBA Mania has been here before. It gets requested a lot. It's 2 shows in January 28th and 29th. Bill Blagg is a grand-scale illusionist from Kenosha who's made it nationally and internationally, actually, with his live magic show. He's been to the Grand a couple times. Each time he does, the show gets a little bit bigger. And this time he's bringing his show on his own. He wanted to give something back to us, and it's a great family-friendly grand-scale illusion show. The Vision Dance Theater, which is from up the road in Appleton, returns for its second year for Dissonance. We're glad to have them added to our calendar now, as we are glad to welcome back for their second time the Winnebago-Land Barbershop Chorus. This time they'll celebrate barbershop songs through the decades. STEAM is a small group that does the classics of Crosby, Stills, Nash, and that era, the Eagles, and it's a fun 70s rock kind of nights. Again, that is Steve March Torme and also Michael Bailey. This time we take on that light classic rock feel with STEAM April 25th. The kids aren't left out. We have 18 shows that happen during the day where kids are bussed in as part of the AmCore Student Discovery Series. I shout them out because they're a great sponsor, as is the JEK Foundation, which sponsors all of our outreach under the umbrella of Every Child, Every Grade, Every Year. That series has something for everything from grades pre-K through 12, and that information is in the teachers' hands right now, and we bring in students, about 10,000 students from 8 counties find their way to the Grand. 50-something communities and classes in the course of a year, and I'm sure that if I got those numbers wrong, it's because I lowballed them. It is the oldest student series in the Valley, so we're very proud to be able to continue that and glad to have that support. Obviously, community support's important, as is the support of the city of Oshkosh to help us maintain the building, and I would not be doing my job if I didn't point out that being a member, being a supporter, is absolutely important to maintain the theater. It also gets you tickets in advance to the general public, and certainly we thank you for your continued support in keeping the building going. There's some really exciting things on your plate for the next year, and I'm looking forward to that. Can I answer any questions for anyone?
Looks like a great schedule.
It'll be fun. It will be fun. I'm looking forward to it. Great. Thank you all. Thanks for your indulgence. I know we went a little long.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Next, we have Julia Salamon with Winnebago County Health on the Youth of Color Report, followed by Aviation Plaza redevelopment tip.
Let's see, there's a height difference here. Okay, is this good? Awesome, thank you. I can't wait to buy some tickets.
Excellent. Thank you.
Wonderful. Thank you very much, Mayor and council members, for inviting us to share this with you. My name is Julia Salomon. I am the public health planner for the Winnebago County Health Department. And I am here today to share with you some information and opinions and feedback that we got from youth in our communities. I am very excited to be sharing some of this with you. As a multiracial person, resident of this community, I was thrilled to be part of this project. And I also have with me my 2 colleagues, Lindsay Erickson and Corey Sagehorn. So I wanted to first start out by pointing out that we do have a very diverse, a somewhat diverse community. Interestingly enough, if you look at the demographics of our community, you'll see more diversity with youth. So if you were to follow those youth through time, we would have a diverse adult population in many years to come. But I think there is room for improvement, and I just wanted to share some of this data. Right now, about 1 in 4 elementary school students is a person of color. And if you look at for example, all the languages that are reportedly spoken at home, just in the Oshkosh area school district, it's something like 59 or 60. If you go towards the other school districts, it's a little less. But we have, some diversity in our community. This project, I want to just take a little bit of time to explain what this is all about and how it came to be. So every 3 years, the county health department conducts a community health needs assessment, where we go out and we collect not only quantitative data, but also qualitative data. We do community conversations, key interviews, we interview stakeholders and residents, and we collect a plethora of information that then is compiled to write a community health needs assessment report. The state does something very, very similar every 10 years. And this year, uniquely enough, they contacted local health departments specifically, and they said, we have funding for local counties to go out and conduct community conversations with identified populations, what they identified as vulnerable populations, but I don't like that term very much. So through a very deliberate process in our department, we sat down and we wanted to figure out what population could we work with to conduct community conversations, especially with populations who are routinely underrepresented or underheard or not heard in processes like this. So through many, many meetings, many conversations, we made a list of some of those populations in our county, and we realized most of the groups that we had identified were adults, adult seniors, adult people with disabilities, et cetera, and we kind of scratched our head and said, where is the voice of youth? And so we really took a deliberate step back and we said, when have youth been a part of a process like this? And so we kind of said, yay, I think we've got our population that we want to hear from. And so then we went through another process deciding, well, how do we reach youth? And what questions do we ask them? And how do we ask them? And luckily, we have wonderful community partners that the Winnebago County Health Department works with, one of them being the schools, the Boys and Girls Club, Fit Oshkosh. There is a group in one of the schools, it's a social justice group. And so we teamed up with them and we presented the idea and they were like thrilled. Part of the methodology was to train youth to facilitate their own conversations. So, 'cause youth sometimes may not be as genuine in their opinions when there is an adult present. So what is unique about this process is that the youth were trained to conduct their own and facilitate their own conversations. When we at the health department talk about a healthy community, a lot of times when you ask people what's a healthy community, they talk about active communities and lots of parks and sidewalks to be active and physical health and nutrition. But really, when we at the health department talk about a healthy community, we're really looking at an expanded view of that. So we're looking at economic opportunities and educational opportunities and affordable quality housing and access to care and all of this. So really the framework from where we're coming from is a much more expanded framework from just the typical wellness wheel or health wheel. So I just wanted to sort of set the stage for how we define health or community health. I'm going to turn it over to my coworkers now. I'll be here for questions.
Thank you, Julia. As Julia mentioned, I'm Corey Sachorn, work for the health department. She mentioned that we conduct a lot of community conversations. What was really unique about this opportunity was that we were able to have the youth trained in leading these conversations. So not skills that they can use just today, but also in the future as well as they go off into college or the workforce. They assisted in facilitation, note-taking, and qualitative analysis. We conducted 3 different community conversations within the county between December of 2018 and February of 2019, ranging in middle school and high school students throughout a few different community locations.
And I'm Lindsay Erickson, Community Health Strategist with Winnebago County Health Department. I'm going to go through this quick. These are some of the focus group questions that were asked during the conversations. Basically asking the students, how would you describe your community to other youth? What is it like or what is challenging to be a youth of color in this community? and then just some open-ended questions that they can add from there.
So from those questions that we asked, we pulled out a few meaningful quotes based upon what the youth said. So these are actual statements that were represented during the conversation, not just our opinions of what happened. We finally have our first teacher of color, an actual teacher, not a janitor.
It's more safe now in the school, but we really don't have representation. They didn't really understand us. Now there are more adults who listen to us.
We really need these people to encourage us and say, hey, you can excel. We need not just people of color to encourage us, but also the white people.
There's not much to do for teenagers. Most people just go to bars.
I'm scared of going to community events because of stereotypes.
What needs to happen is we all need to band together and fight this. We need to get over the small town mindset or nothing is going to change.
I've been the only black person in classes and I get quiet. It makes us feel hollow inside.
We don't usually get to have a conversation that is real like this.
So now we took some overall themes based upon the analysis of these conversations, and this is kind of what came up as the big key topics. I would like to point out that pockets of support for youth of color do exist within our community. They notice that in their schools, they have different activities and clubs that they can join to feel supported and welcomed and safe.
Some other challenges that youth mentioned during these conversations, so experiencing both passive and active racism, anything from name calling, stereotyping, to some double binds, which means that they feel conflicted, that they're meant to act in a certain way in one situation that conflicts with how they're supposed to act in a different situation. And then all the way to homophobia against youth who identify as LGBTQ, isolation and self-segregation, meaning that they feel safer when they're with other youth of color.
And then in regards to what would help youth be healthy, so they mentioned a lot the social support and having real conversations around this topic. They said that this was a place where they felt very comfortable in a safe space surrounded by people who were like them in a comfortable environment. They also talked about having a positive mindset in regards to their health and also living in a healthy environment. Finally, the increased racial literacy to combat ignorance and stereotypes both among their peers and other community members as well.
2 more minutes, ladies, okay?
So to wrap up the kind of so what, we want to acknowledge that the youth in the Y2Y student group and Marika Van Ruyen from Fit Oshkosh did a bulk of this work, so it was great that they did this. So recognizing that our demographics are changing, that youth here in Oshkosh in the county don't necessarily feel welcomed, and that may lead them to moving away after graduation. They may be less likely to stay here. So to really recruit and retain that workforce, we have to think about this and welcome diversity. So how do we work together, being a more welcoming and thriving community for all, given what we're seeing with shifts in demographics?
And so some recommendations based upon the shift in demographics and what the youth have said in these conversations, needing more opportunities to have conversations that are real like this. And also having role models who represent people who look like them and have similar lived experiences. And also youth of color noticed an increase for racial literacy based upon the shifting demographics in our community. And that's all we have, so thank you very much for your time today. Are there any questions?
Councilmember Miller?
Thank you, Mayor. Are you doing this presentation to the schools as well? Because it seems, I see a lot of this had to do with how they felt in school, more so maybe in the public. Is that accurate? Maybe it seems a lot of these questions or answers were, I feel this way in school or this in school.
So that's a really good question. The state gave us some prescribed questions to ask because they're going to all 72 counties and they wanted some standardization of the questions. The questions, even for us, were a little hard to understand. So we called them back and we said, we're working with youth. Is there a way to tweak these questions? So instead of asking them, what is your perspective on community health? How would you answer that question? We sort of tweaked them with the help of the students, explaining to them what is community health. And so they came up with that question. Well, let's ask it this way. If a youth of color came to this community, how would you describe this community? So that question became, that. The report itself has a lot more information based on community in general, but there's also, because these conversations took place in a school and also at the Boys and Girls Club, and it was with youth, most youth identify as being students, so a lot of it had to do with their definition of the community as a school. But if you read the full report, it does have a lot of responses based on community as a whole.
I guess to further my question, sorry, Mayor, what I'm saying is, are you going to give this presentation to the schools in the area here? Because I think it's important that they hear this as well.
Absolutely.
Okay.
The first people that we shared this with were the host sites. We did share it with Dr. Cartwright. We shared it with the principal at the other school and the director of the Boys and Girls Club, or the teen program director. So absolutely. And we did have a conversation with a member of the executive team at the schools, for sure.
Thank you.
Yes. And we'll be sharing it with other community partners as well.
Any other questions? Thank you, ladies.
Thank you.
And our final presentation for the evening, the Aviation Plaza redevelopment tip, tax incremental finance.
Hello, Council. Thank you for allowing us to come and talk. My name is Tim Hess, and I'm here with Tyler Riley. I am a real estate analytics consultant. Tyler happens to be the owner of Extreme Customs, one of the parties that would like to participate in the aviation. Hey, thank you. Wonderful. Tell you a little bit about myself, why I'm the one up here talking. I'm a real estate analytics consultant. I work for the University of Wisconsin, but on the side I do outside consulting, and I do it under the banner of Invista Analytics. I'm the guy who kind of represents all three parties. Tyler's probably more important, but I represent the other parties too, so I'm going to do the talking tonight. But Tyler's here to answer any questions if we have any. So I'm going to try to limit this. We talked February 11th, I believe, is the initial presentation. I'm not going to cover what we're doing, but rather kind of give you updates from our perspective, where we're at, and kind of give you highlights, knowing that you guys are going into closed session tonight to talk about this a little more. So again, we came up with a total number of what we're hopefully asking for is this $1.7 million in a TIF ask. The total investment that we're putting into that site across all three of the different entities is $2.9 million. And putting that into context, we're asking for 7.4% of the total project cost. The City of Oshkosh's TIF policy allows for a maximum of 25%. I appreciate nobody wants to go up to that, but trying to give you some context here. The merged development TIF that you guys approved a couple of weeks ago, admittedly, we all know the numbers aren't perfectly solid, but in concept, I think they were asking for $6 million on a $40 million investment, or 15%. In the grand scheme of things, relative percentage of what we're asking here is smaller than all the TIFs that we've had in recent years. So, and that also leads into then my next slide, which is we are committed to a 10-year payback of the development incentive. We said that back in February. Even a month ago, when you saw our TIF ask at that time and went into closed session, we have had increased costs in that time. It turns out that Tyler and Pat Rogan is going to need to put in more monies, and Mr. Masters will need to put into more monies into waterfowl prevention kind of thing. But so Tyler and Pat are going to get more monies to help out for that, and to offset that, to keep it within 10 years, Mr. Masters is sacrificing some money. So we are committed to a 10-year payback in this particular instance, and Mr. Masters is more than welcoming the prospect of that 5-year look-back clause. So that too is something that if you look back at your recent TIFs, isn't something that you're used to seeing. Another key point that we'd really like to make here is this, that to make this work, we can't pick and choose here. That we've been awarded the Idle Sites grant, and thank you, city staff, for doing all the work to help us achieve that. But that grant is applicable to the entire site. The entire site has to be developed. And if you start picking and choosing which entities we're going to support, if any of these entities drops out, this whole thing falls apart. That the major increment that is generated from the master's project, from the mine shaft, and that we use that to facilitate Pat Rogan getting assistance and to facilitate Tyler getting assistance here. So that we want to make sure that we're conveying the fact here that we can't pick and choose. It has to be the whole thing. Next thing that we want to talk about is jobs. We talked about it last time in concept. We've got more understanding of the numbers. Mr. Masters and the mine shaft thing, I would suggest conservatively we can talk about 100 additional jobs. Mr. Riley here employs roughly 32 people here in the city of Oshkosh, so we would be talking about retaining those people. And if you can get this site, he's talking an additional 10 folks here within the next year. And the reality is, if this doesn't happen, Mr. Riley unfortunately has a real estate agent that's happy to show him parcels up in Appleton and the Neenah area. We don't want to do that. We want to make this work, but that's what we're talking about here. Again, what we're talking about is addressing substantial underutilization for a gateway entry site to this city. I would suggest that we're trying to be a city that represents itself as a thriving city. And when you enter into a major gateway like that and you see that particular site, it doesn't convey that particular image. So this is what we're trying to achieve here by doing this entire thing. And that this is a specific element in the city center's corridors plan. So this is something that you guys have identified as a goal that you want to achieve. And to make this happen, all three of these entities need to come in here. And the final new kind of piece of element that we recently did a study on is we went down to Hartford. We talked to people coming into the mine shaft and asked them their zip codes. And what we found was 78% of the people that came into the Hartford and the mine shaft in Hartford were from greater than 10 miles away. Now, admittedly, you can sit there and say, well, Hartford's a smaller community. You come to Oshkosh, it's going to be different. Well, yes. You can turn around, and if you have the zip codes and the populations, this is a perfect example of applying Bayes' theorem. I know you're all excited by that, but it was a great project for an undergraduate intern to turn around and say, if you're getting 78% of people down in Hartford coming from 10 miles away, what does that mean in Oshkosh? What that means in Oshkosh is 48% of the people that walk through those doors are going to be from 10 miles away as an estimate. And that results in 320,000 people annually should be coming in through those doors from greater than 10 miles away. And I would start thinking about what is the residual economic impact of that, especially for the brick and mortar retails that we have in that area. You're talking the Target and the Outlet Mall, all those places are going to be excited to get that number of people coming in here for the Mine Shaft restaurant. So those are kind of the highlights. We wanted to give you guys an opportunity to ask us any questions before you guys head into closed session later this evening. That's all we've got.
Deputy Mayor Herman.
Thank you. What kind of timeline would you start expecting to develop and then probably finish the product?
Well, this thing goes up to vote on the 23rd. Joint Review Board would be shortly after that, and I know everybody would be looking to start immediately. Mr. Riley and Pat Rogan would have their stuff completed by the end of the year.
Okay.
Mr. Masters would be looking for April, May sort of time frame next year for completion, but he would start right away.
All right, thanks.
Yep.
Councilmember Mugerauer.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. When you were here back in February, Mr. Masters alluded to, he mentioned 200 jobs. And when we see this, we see 100 jobs. It's easy math. It's a lot of money that's not being paid out to employees. That's a big difference. That's a big impact. 200 was a good number. 100's a lot less. What happened between February 12th and now that number's half?
All I can present is the numbers that I can justify.
Okay.
I think Mr. Masters is excited to do things. I don't think he's intentionally trying to misrepresent anything. I can justify 100 very well.
You also talked about on the 12th, a complete and defined market analysis. Was that done?
Yes.
Has it been completed?
Yes.
Okay, that was part of the,
That was part of
that was part of that. What-
the entire analysis.
That's what I just wanted to make sure.
Yep.
And obviously, as a pay-go,
It
Jeff?
is a pay-go.
you've got to front the cost for the development, for the improvements.
Mhm.
It seems as though, looking at some of the numbers, for lack of a better term, the numbers are a little tight. Is there enough equity and enough financial backing that you can sustain and you can take on that and make this work? I know obviously you wouldn't have gotten this far if you couldn't
Right.
get to a certain point, but my question, I guess, comes back to Mr. Masters, and up to this point, or up to this year, it's been about having enough equity to
Right.
make this project work.
Right.
Is there total enough equity
Yes.
to make this fully viable?
Yes.
Because in the analysis, it talks about, obviously, banks have different thresholds they're willing to lend, depending on the development. Restaurants they're risky. 50%
Yep.
is the max, and that's what they're capping out at, $8 million for investment.
Yes.
They're willing to put in this. He's got to bring another 8. Where it points out that other real estate things, such as the merge, you
Yep.
can typically go 20, 30 maybe for equity stake.
Correct.
I'm just concerned that one part of this development, the biggest part of this development, if it doesn't go well very quickly, that there's not enough to sustain it. And now we've got an empty building. And I know you can't answer that, but it's a comment that I need to make so that it can be addressed if you choose to.
So from an analytical standpoint, from evaluating the TIF and the potential ask here, I'm looking at, can this development stand on its own? And I would suggest that Mr. Masters' experience, his 20 years of operating, projecting what happens from Hartford and bringing that into Oshkosh, I suspect it works out just fine. Of course, the banks are the one who are far more pessimistic than I am because it's their $8 million. And I believe the way that they look at it is, hey, from a financial standpoint, if the mine shaft in Oshkosh is struggling, there's some room in the mine shaft down in Hartford in terms of its profitability, or in his Fox and Hounds, the other entities that he owns, that could make it such that this isn't a losing proposition.
Okay. One more
Counsel-
follow, just one more follow-up, Madam Mayor. It's standalone as a restaurant TIF is a hard ask. That's the easy thing to say. That's the easy thing for me to say.
Yep.
I don't even have to look to my left, and that's a hard ask for just a standalone restaurant. You did well by bringing 2 other business partners together, the entire development. I have an issue subsidizing a restaurant and putting other restaurants potentially out of business by giving a TIF primarily to a restaurant. I have a hard time making that conscious decision when the economics right now show we are at an all-time low for unemployment. There is not enough people to fill the jobs we have, and he wants to put 100 jobs, and that's great. It's a hard ask.
Again, I would come back to the conversation that we had in February. I think I can make a substantial argument for even his entity. I cannot characterize as just a restaurant. And that, in my mind, the likely clientele aren't necessarily going to some of the other restaurants that you may be thinking about per se. That if I'm taking out my fiance for dinner, she's not going to be thrilled with me to go and play a bunch of video games too. So that's kind of, I appreciate there's some overlap. I couldn't possibly say that there's not. But I think, in my mind, the market is substantially different from a fair number of the other restaurants that are in town. That would be my argument.
Thank you very much.
Yep.
Councilmember Miller.
Thank you, Mayor. Tim, thanks. Does Mr. Master still do a lot of catering out at EAA and Country USA and all of those things?
He is not.
He-
Last several years.
Okay, I thought maybe there was some revenue flow for that or something. Thank you.
Yep.
All right, I have two questions, and one is, I believe in the first presentation that we had gotten from Mr. Masters, we'd asked about those jobs and what types of wages we'd be looking at. So for the mine shaft, and perhaps Mr. Tyler Riley could answer that for Extreme as well.
You want to do? I can't necessarily allude to what the wages are at this stage for the mine shaft. I can tell you we will get you something substantially more. I think you've got another couple more opportunities to review this. I know Mr. Masters said some things at the last time where I know there are some people that make really good money. I appreciate it's a restaurant. I don't want to try to oversell what it is in terms of wages per se. It is what it is. We'll get you more information on that. But Tyler can certainly talk.
Some of my team members make anywhere in the beginning from 15 to 25 an hour, and then it goes up from there based on sales commissions and that type of stuff.
So you said some of your team members.
Well, the ones that have been there a lot longer make more money, obviously, but the ones that start out get an aggressive commission based on their sales. So if they bring in more online or locally, they'll make more money if they hit different tiers.
And my second question would just be, so for Extreme, what does this do for you or not do for you if it doesn't happen?
What will it do for me if this doesn't happen? Not good things. I mean, I'd be looking at either having to move out of the area because I'm completely out of room right now. Not sure if you read that summary my attorney typed up, but we are completely out of room and we're sitting on a lot of dead inventory right now. I can get out of that, but only if I have no room to do stock swaps. It's basically a 2-for-1 deal from vendors, and I've done that since the day I started. And about 2.5 years ago is when I ran out of room, and now we're kind of stuck. So a year and a half ago is when I approached Phoenix about the property, the JCPenney property, and we've been going back and forth ever since to right now.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Thank you.
Thank you all.
Seems like that's all. Thank
Thank
you.
you.
Thank you.
Moving on to public hearing 19-353. Clerk, do we have anybody registered to speak to this?
No one is registered.
All right, thank you. So 19-353 is approved deletion of a portion of officially mapped Riverwalk South Shore of Fox River from Iowa Street to 336 feet east of Oregon Street. Plan Commission recommends approval. Just a note here, no formal action will be taken on this this evening. And so we don't need to bring this back to council, but we will do 3 readings. Again, 19-353, approved deletion of a portion of officially mapped Riverwalk South Shore of Fox River from Iowa Street east to Oregon Street. Plan Commission recommends approval. Third and final reading. 19-353, approve deletion of a portion of officially mapped Riverwalk South Shore of Fox River from Iowa Street to east of Oregon Street. Plan Commission recommends approval. Next, we have citizen statements to council. Do we have anyone registered for
Yes.
citizen statements?
We have several.
All right.
Deb Martin, 164 Wildwood Drive.
Good evening. I just have an observation and for your consideration. I've been coming to some council meetings and seen some on television. I didn't used to watch, but I've been watching more frequently now and learning a lot. But one of the things I've noticed is the cell phone. I know in schools and even our officer tells us at the beginning to turn off our cell phone or put them on mute for the audience. I would just request that as council members, even if you don't, those of us in the audience can see you. When you put your head down, we know whether you're on a cell phone or some other thing. So just be for consideration of fellow council members and for those of us in the audience here and on television to be aware that maybe you wouldn't want to use your phones during the council meetings. Thank you.
Mark Desagny, W 3299 Princeton Road, Green Bay.
Good evening. I'm here representing Boys and Girls Club of Oshkosh as the CEO for Boys and Girls Club. I just want to make a comment, a couple comments on the earlier report you heard from the three ladies here on the survey that the kids were done of kids of color. Not that these comments were my concern, but I think when you read the full report, there was some comments about the police department participation at the Boys and Girls Club. And I just wanted to share with you as council members that your police department has just done an excellent job in partnership with the Boys and Girls Club over the years, many years, under two different police chiefs. So I really don't know the experience that this young person had. It wasn't necessarily negative, it was a little more of disengaged, I think was the comments. And so, and I'm paraphrasing, but I will tell you that what I have observed is your officers, and there are many that have come over the years, spend time with the kids, all the kids at the club. They've come to teach classes at the club. I've seen anti-bullying classes. I've seen classes in life skills. I've seen just general recreational time with the kids. I've watched them do things like cops versus kids, volleyball games and basketball games. I've seen them come to our awards nights and hand out awards to kids, encourage them on help at Christmas party and Thanksgiving dinners and those types of things. So I just want you to know your officers, I think the partnership is great. And I see a lot of positives in the relationships that they've built with our young kids. And oftentimes our kids of color, because the club draws kids of color because of the neighborhood and the affordability and the open door policy there. So I just wanted you all to know that. I'm supportive of what the police are doing. And you know, a compliment to your police chief, Dean Smith. On top of everything else, he's also serving on our strategic plan committee for the next 3 years for the Boys and Girls Club and taking an active role there. So that's all. I just wanted you to be aware of that and know that they're doing great. Thank you.
Mark, I got a question for you, and I should know this, I'm sorry, but how many kids a day do you feed down there in the summertime?
Well, in the summertime right now, it's getting somewhere between 375 and 400 kids in the summertime at the club. During the school year, at the club itself, about 150 a day, but then if you add what we do at the school sites, we're out at 9 school sites, you know, it's somewhere around 600 kids a day.
Oh,
So
nice-
that's
nice
breakfast.
job.
That's breakfast in the summer, it's breakfast, lunch, and 3 o'clock snack, so,
Nice job.
yeah.
Thank you.
Lydia Christensen, 1045 Greenwood Court.
Hi there. First, I just wanted to say thank you for allowing me the time to come out here and speak in front of you. I am going to be speaking about a situation I believe, and I am kind of nervous, so I am going to refer to my papers here to make sure that I have correct and accurate descriptions of what I'm about to say. I'm here to ask that the City Council considers adopting an ordinance prohibits discrimination against members of our community who fall under the term sexual minorities. I believe that no one individual needs any specific special rights or privileges, and that would not be granted to any one of the city's residents here today. In a city that we call Event City, a city that attracts thousands of students, where college-aged individuals are attempting to thrive and build a life for themselves, I truly don't believe this is or should be a controversial issue in our community. However, in an effort to understand the views of those that would see my efforts as an affront to their own personal perceived liberties, I came in to speak. The ordinance that I'd be asking for the city to consider is one that similar to the one that passed in Salt Lake City in 2009. The LGBTQ plus community and the Christian church community came together to create reasonable and approachable ways to deal with these situations. And it's not just in Utah. It's happening all over the United States. We're having massive discussions about these specific situations and how we can best protect the communities around us. It's not that we don't have protections in Wisconsin, it's that the state law only protects members of the LGBT plus community in government, or as of recently, October 30th, 2017, 2 of our local representatives passed the resolution in the Winnebago County protecting gender identity and expression at the county department level. These protections, while are wonderful and great step moving forward, do not protect any of the individuals that are unable to run into a government position. Therefore, these protections are not addressing the rights of the community at large. I feel, at first I was struggling with understanding why people would take actions to sue businesses for not providing a service to them. I don't believe that that's necessarily the correct path of action. And because of that, I decided that that what I'm doing here today is an important aspect of the work that I'm doing, but it's also just part of it. I'm also actively stepping up to speak with the LGBT plus community in actively treating others the same way we wish to be treated. Because we want to be certain that we're making every effort to give freely to all what it is that we're saying is our God-given rights today. And as a story is just the other day I was writing emails out to people to find support for my causes and the things I'm set out here to do today, to step up for my community and have a voice. I was struggling with it because it was a lot of work to find these connections, and I was about to give up for the day because I felt that my efforts weren't making any actual progress. Well, as I started to walk away from my office, I heard the ding, the familiar ding that we all look forward to. And I said, wait, that couldn't be, I thought. And again, I heard it again. And it was just a flurry of messages that come of people coming out and supporting the situations that we have to stand up for ourselves in. And I find it important to mention that I'm fairly certain at that moment, my face was a complete mess. I broke down in tears of joy because at the smallest bit of acceptance and worth in our society, I broke down and felt that pure joy in the fact that I could have any kind of effect to actually affect the community at large. And that made me feel astronomical. And if that be the case, it's truly an honor for me, and it is with much pride that I step up and begin that service now. The support of our community gets so much support from fellow Wisconsinites that it is not something that I take lightly. I understand others' viewpoints when they say they're exercising their freedom to reject people based on who they are, but in an at-will employment state, there will always be a reason to fire someone, and that's too common in our society. One of those reasons should not be how we personally feel about one another and how they look, sound, or love. And I want to thank you guys for giving me a chance to come and have it.
Thank you, Lydia.
Thank you.
I have no
Anybody
one.
else?
Nice job up there, by the way, as scared as you were.
Thanks for coming. Next, we have consent agenda items. Do we have anyone registered to speak on any of the consent agenda items?
No one is registered.
All right, thank you. So we'll bring it back to council for a motion and a second.
So moved. Second.
Discussion, Deputy Mayor Herman.
Thank you, Mayor. I'd like to pull Resolution 19-354 and Resolution 19-355 for a separate vote, as what we have on our resolution is not correct at this time.
Okay, then we will entertain a motion and a second for consent agenda less 19354 and 19355.
So moved.
Second?
Discussion? Clerk, can you please call the roll?
Peschel,
Aye.
Miller,
Aye.
Allison Osby. Aye. Herman,
Aye.
Mugrower,
Aye.
Krause,
Aye.
Palmieri,
Aye.
carried 7.
So moving on to items removed from consent agenda, 19354. Approve resolution providing the issuance and sale of 11,085. City Attorney Lawrenson.
Mayor, we have updated numbers for the actual sale and also the winning bids. The city clerk does have the updated resolutions. So we would just need motions to amend, to adopt the updated resolutions as on file with the city clerk. And then I also believe Finance Director Larson was going to give you the details on the updates.
All right. Deputy Mayor Herman.
I'll make a motion to amend Resolution 19-354 and Resolution 19-355, and if the clerk could just read the approved, or the resolution as we be voting on, please.
Okay. For Resolution 19-354, which is Series 2019D, the water storm revenue bonds, that amount has changed to $8,220,000. And then Resolution 19-355, Series 2019E, the sewer system revenue bonds, that amount changed to $13,990,000.
Second.
Discussion? Deputy Mayor Herman.
Thank you, Mayor. Ms. Larson, and I think it's Mr. Cameron, if you guys would like to give us the information before we vote on it, please.
Yes, we would like to report the very positive results. Today we have John Cameron. He's a senior municipal advisor down at Ellers, so he's subbing in for Mr. Taves, and so he will give you the outcome of today's results.
Good evening, everybody. Very pleased to be here tonight to tell you that you had two very successful bond sales this morning. On the 2019 D water revenue bonds, we took bids at 10 o'clock this morning. We received 3 bids, with the winning bid being from Hutchinson, Shockey, Early & Company, with a true interest cost, or TIC, of 2.4918%. We were able to reduce the issue size by $655,000 to the $8,220,000 that you have before you. The overall reduction was primarily comprised of approximately $610,000 bond premium received, as well as reduction in the unused discount and lower rating agency costs, and then a lowering of the debt service reserve fund by approximately $41,000 due to the lower size. In total, the principal and interest payments will be approximately $632,000 lower than the updated sale amount in the pre-sale estimate, so very positive overall. The other item to mention on this is, as part of this, there was the current refunding of the 2011 F revenue bonds. The total savings over the remaining life of that debt issue will be $423,900, which at a net present value basis equates to approximately $289,000 or approximately 7.796% of the principal amount. So a very positive result there. On the 2019 sewer revenue bonds, we took bids at 11 o'clock for those. We received 4 bids, with the winning bid again being from Hutchinson, Shockey, and Early, with a true interest cost of 2.3397%. We were able to reduce the issue size by $1,020,000 to the $13,990,000 that you have before you this evening. That again was a part of bond premium received, as well as lower unused discount taken by the underwriter on the bid, and lower rating agency fees for that issue as well. We were able to also reduce the debt service reserve fund by approximately $9,500 due to the lower size. In total, that issue will be approximately $928,930 principal and interest over the life of the debt compared to the updated presale estimates. As part of that, there was also current refundings of the 2010 G debt issue that produced total savings of approximately $209,000 over the remaining life of the debt, which is approximately 5.42% on a net present value basis. Then the 2011 E issue also was a current refunding. The total savings there is approximately $435,500 over the remaining life of the debt, which is 8.356% on a net present value basis of the refunded principal amount. So congratulations on 2 very successful sales today.
Thank you very much.
So we will now vote on the amended resolution 19-354 separately or with 355? The amended.
I would rather it be separate.
Separate.
We can
All
do
right,
separate.
on 354. So clerk, can you please take the roll?
This is on the motion to amend it.
Motion
Correct.
to amend.
Peschel.
Aye.
Miller.
Aye.
Allison Osby. Aye. Herman.
Aye.
Mugrower.
Aye.
Krause.
Aye.
Palmieri.
Aye.
Carried 7.
And then moving on to the resolution as amended. We have a motion and a second
We have
as
to-
amended.
You have to approve. You have to complete 354.
Right.
Vote on it as amended.
As amended.
As amended.
Yeah.
Right.
Okay. Peschel.
Aye.
Miller.
Aye.
Allison Osby. Aye. Herman.
Aye.
Mugrower.
Aye.
Krause.
Aye.
Palmieri.
Aye.
Carried 7.
So on resolution 19-355, we'll vote first to amend that. We need a motion and a second for that.
So move.
Second.
Any discussion? All right, can we please take the roll?
Peschel.
Aye.
Miller.
Aye.
Allison Osby. Aye. Herman.
Aye.
Mugrower.
Aye.
Krause.
Aye.
Palmieri.
Aye.
Carried 7.
We're good.
Now we
Right.
vote
As
on it.
amended.
We
Make a
still have-
motion to amend, as amended, resolution 19-355.
Second.
Any further discussion on that? Okay, can we please take the roll?
Peschel.
Aye.
Miller.
Aye.
Allison Osby. Aye. Herman.
Aye.
Mugrower.
Aye.
Krause.
Aye.
Palmieri.
Aye.
Carried 7.
Thank you very much. Nope, thought he was out of here.
Next, we have pending ordinances. The first one is 19-376, temporary closure of Pioneer Drive at 14th Avenue, allowing persons to use a portion of Pioneer Drive for viewing of the July 4th fireworks show and allow carry-ins for July 4th fireworks show. Do we have anyone registered on 19-376?
No one is registered.
Okay, bring it back to council for a motion and a second.
So moved.
Discussion. All right, clerk, can we please take the roll?
Peschel.
Aye.
Miller.
Aye.
Allison Osby. Aye. Herman.
Aye.
Mugrower.
Aye.
Krause.
Aye.
Palmieri.
Aye.
Carried 7.
Next, we have two two new ordinances. No formal action will be taken on either of these. 19377, approve request to annex the city from the town of Oshkosh. Gilman annexation, 575 West Snell Road. Plan Commission recommends approval. Do we have anyone registered to speak on this one?
No one is registered.
All right. And no action, so we'll move on to new ordinance 19378, designate bike lanes on Oakwood Road between 9th Avenue and 20th Avenue and to allow parking. Do we have anyone registered to speak on 19378?
Yes, we do. Dmitry Sokolov, 727 West Lincoln.
Hello, my name is Dimitri. Hi, Lori. And everybody. I just compiled this today, so I probably will be using this a lot. This is, I'm here to bash the bike lanes. I like biking, but that road, I use it quite often, so I thought I'd come out here and talk about it a little bit. So I'm focusing only on the bike lane aspect of this, no, the parking aspect. Biking is a warm weather activity. The need for this lane in the state with half a year of cold temperatures is unwarranted. 50% of the year this is not going to be used. Yet it becomes a permanent change on the road that dictates how drivers should drive. This decision will take will make a safer road. We'll take a safer road and turn it into a less safe road, in my opinion, for two reasons. Everyone from their experience knows a wider road is a safer road. If anybody disagrees, then think of driving on the narrow county road with a semi coming your way. And now compare that feeling to the feeling when you're driving on a 4-lane road somewhere, in Oshkosh and sit in the far right lane far away from oncoming traffic. So much better. Number two reason is that it's going to become less. Number two reason that it's going to become a less safe road is that you're encouraging unprotected people on a very fragile mode of transportation to be present in the same area, meaning on the road, where the vehicles are. So vehicles that weigh thousands of pounds. Average bike weight 20 pounds, average car 30 pounds, 3,000 pounds, average truck 5,000 pounds. So these vehicles are going to be driving by in the direct vicinity, practically touching cyclists. One wrong move on the part of either the driver or the cyclist, and it's instant disaster. Bone-crushing, crippling, potentially deadly disaster. In this collision, the cyclist will always they'll lose every time, potentially lose their life. Yes, it's extreme, but it could happen. Is that what you want to encourage? I think the job of the city is to take our daily commute and make it better, less stressful. This idea does not sound like a less stressful idea at all. Driving on the road with proposed changes on Oakwood there and getting stuck behind a slow-moving vehicle sounds more stressful. Being forced to drive closer to the oncoming traffic sounds more stressful. Driving a car while approaching child cyclists and wondering, hey, how do I know if the kid didn't just learn to ride a bike a week ago? Or is he going to fall right in front of my car? And am I going to run him over? Is that my fault? Good luck proving your innocence in that case. I don't have a dash cam, but probably should put one up. Or if the cyclist is on the other side of the road and oncoming traffic is going to start popping into my lane, trying to avoid that kid, driving right in on that bike lane, I think you bet they're going to do it because nobody wants to get hurt. Nobody wants to hurt anybody else. And speaking of hurting others, insurance costs are, pardon me, but too dang high. And this adjustment of odds towards more accidents is going to have a cost. It's going to cost health. It's going to cost money. And it's going to promote insurance companies possibly to designate Oshkosh as a higher insurance premium city. So let's see here. Yeah, so it's pretty much stress, stress, more stress, no matter how you look at it. Let's see. To wrap up here, national average report so it's a report for driving after drinking too much. National average 1.9%, Wisconsin 3.1%. So 10 million people reported driving under the influence of illicit drugs, and this is from 2014, and it's from MAD, Mothers Against Drunk Driving. So you have you have that factor. Distracted driving is on the rise due to smartphones. That's common knowledge. Medications could affect your driving. Good old radio is distracting. Modern cars have less physical buttons, so in order to switch functions, you have to look what screen buttons you're pressing. So again, distractions. In conclusion, I want to paint a picture. So this is what I'm going to leave you with.
And Mr. Sokolow, if you could wrap it up in
Yes,
the next 30
wrapping up,
seconds, thank
painting
you.
a picture here. Imagine dusk, and your child is riding on the bike on the Oakwood Road. You told them not to, but they didn't listen. So they're riding their little bike on the lane where they're supposed to be and thinking, hey, it's safe, there's the bike lane. But what they don't know is that the country USA, it's country USA time. And if you're driving from Amro and want to avoid all the traffic in Oshkosh, and you're going to take out Oakwood Road, the Oakwood Road will take you right straight to the party, where the party's at. And there's a lifted truck. Imagine a lifted truck rolling behind this little child. Driver fiddling with the radio, digging under the seat for the pack of cigs that fell there because the car hit a bump. As he finds his cigs, he gets in text from his friend saying, hey, where you at? Get over here. Driver steps on the gas, looks in the rearview mirror, notices a bike lane on the road. He thinks, hey, how strange. Because the bump he hit wasn't a bump at all.
Thank you for your thoughts. So for 19-378, do we have a motion and a second?
No, there's no reading.
Oh, sorry, first reading. All right. Next, we have two new resolutions. 19-379, approve annual city licenses and renewals. Do we have anyone registered to speak?
No one is registered.
All right, thank you. Back to council for a motion and a second on 19-379.
So moved.
Second.
Any discussion? All right, can we please take the roll?
Heschel.
Aye.
Miller.
Aye.
Allison Osby. Aye. Herman.
Aye.
Mugrower.
Aye.
Rousey.
Aye.
Palmieri.
Aye.
Carried 7.
Next, we have 19-380, authorize staff to complete and file a water rate increase application with the Public Service Commission of Wisconsin. Do we have anyone registered to speak on 19-380?
No one is registered.
All right. Back to council for a motion and a second on 19-380.
So moved.
Second.
Discussion? Councilmember Miller.
Thank you, Mayor. James, this is for the wholesale application, is that? Is
No,
that-
this would be for the water utility as a whole.
Okay, all right. Thank you.
All right. Can we please take the roll on 19-380?
Heschel.
Aye.
Miller.
Aye.
Allison Osby. Aye. Herman.
Aye.
Mugrower.
Aye.
Rousey.
Aye.
Palmieri.
Aye.
Carried 7.
And moving on to council discussion and direction to city manager for future agenda items. First, we have follow-up on public information meeting on transportation fee. City manager?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Actually, I put this on the agenda for any comments or questions as related to the meeting we held earlier. I know some of you were here in and out just before the meeting.
Yeah, I have a question.
Deputy Mayor
Please
Herman?
go ahead. Yeah, that's what this is about.
Thank you, Mayor. I guess I thought at the last council meeting and discussion, there was going to be a look back. We've taken that out of the possibility of looking back to,
Staff did not initially propose it. We wanted to leave that up to council. There was some discussion, as you could see, that some people were asking to go back for the life of a project.
yeah, I thought we talked like 5 years maybe.
Well, You may recall that when we were discussing the Nina experience, they did a look back of 5 years. We have not put that in the ordinance. We wanted to get council's, we didn't get a formal direction, and the mayor and I had a discussion on that as well, and we felt it was appropriate for council to bring it up. If council wants to bring it up, we'll do it, but we did not propose it in.
Okay, I guess my concern is how much staff time would be taken up in trying to figure out, I mean, we have to go what? Look, the clerk has all the people that have been assessed in the last, they're probably 15 years, they're still paying for their assessments.
Yeah.
So we know pretty much in the last 5 years, but I guess it would be, what kind of percentage are we talking about? What all would be entailed in a look back, I guess?
I'll let Ms. Larson comment on it, and I'll just do a little precursor. The Nina model, just so everybody is on the same page, the Nina model said that if you have paid or been subject to a special assessment in the 5 years previous, that they would go back and waive your fee for, if it was 5 years ago, 1 year, 4 years ago, 2, and then basically, if it was the most recent year that it was done, that would be a full 5-year waiver of the fee itself. So that's what the Nina model was. I know it has some impact on staff because of the, it'd be a manual process, but I'll let Ms. Larson comment on that.
The challenge would be truly in the administration of this. It would be a manual administration of which you would undertake every year. You would need to apply a credit for the 5-year people, and then you would need to create a table for the percent of credit, and you would need to readjust every person every year to step down their credit. It would delay the implementation of this program because the reason it would be delayed is the current, we call it SPA system, is not connected into our Munis ERP program, and so that all of that connectivity does not exist, and so it would require a manual lookup of the customers within the last 5 years, and then going on and assigning that credit onto every customer that had a special assessment for the last 5 years. And James, you could probably throw a number out there of how many people that might entail.
On street reconstruction projects, probably 100 to 150 per year, just for the street reconstruction projects. So, 5 years, you'd be looking at 500 to 750 accounts that you'd have to be manually managing and, stepping down each year.
Councilmember Krause.
That was my question. Over the last 5 years, how many residents it would affect? And from what you're saying, it's a small percentage of the city?
It's an estimate.
A rough estimate?
It's a rough estimate, right, of 100 to 150 per year.
And what I'm hearing from citizens, the people, residential citizens, the biggest beef is if I've had my street down in the last 5 years, I shouldn't have to pay. So I look at it as a very small percentage of the population. People that want this to go through as quick as possible are people that they're on the schedule for this year or next year. So, I mean, it kind of just depends where you're at, but I'll stress it again, we're all in this together. If you have a father, a mother, a grandfather, a daughter, a son, whatever, that this is going to affect. I mean, families matter, so if you can help out your family, and we're all part of a big family here in Oshkosh, I think we should all be in this together.
One thing I do want to clarify, that was just for the street reconstruction projects. If you want to start factoring into account the sidewalk rehab project, that's 2,500 to 3,000 properties per year. Mm-hmm. So, just something to keep in mind. Those cost numbers are significantly lower than street reconstruction projects, but just something that, I did want to clarify that just so you understood the difference between the two programs.
Thank you.
Councilmember Mukarauer.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. There was actually one thing I wanted to point out, so thanks for beating me to it, Mr. Robbie. Just that if you're interested in a look back or a credit for previous special assessments, what exactly are you looking for? Because is it just the roadwork special assessment or is it sidewalk as well? Because sidewalk is done every 10 years on that cycle. So what type of credit are you looking for? Or who are you looking to benefit on that? That would be a question I would ask. Coming out of long-range finance, I believe I can surmise the committee's thought on it was there was no easy way or no perfect way of issuing, of them determining a credit for the entire city. It definitely would be something council needed to consider and evaluate on a policy decision. Street reconstruction-wise, it's very low for the total that would be affected by maybe a 5-year look back. Personally, I've said it before, there's a first, in the history of everything, there was a first and there was a last. And it doesn't matter when we start this, there is going to be a last, I'm hopeful. If not, then so be it. But at some point, we have to stop. At some point, we have to change this. And whether we have that look back or not, it's definitely a good conversation to have, but I can be behind any of it as long as my fellow council members see that this is a larger issue, that there has to be a stop date, and it's got to be soon for these people to realize a real benefit from changing from the special assessments to the new potential new policy.
City Manager?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. With respect to the sidewalk issue, because of the volume, I would not recommend that. With respect to the streets, I wanted you to hear from Ms. Larson so you knew just the logistics of it. But if that's what council wants to do, I'm comfortable working with staff. I think there's a few ideas, if that's what you, and it sounds like there's a consensus. And if you can give us that general consensus on the NINA model, for lack of a better term, staff will work on that. But I wouldn't recommend it for the sidewalks. Given the amount of money that we're talking about, you're really talking a few $100s per parcel, and administratively, going back through 3,000 properties would be very cumbersome, and I don't even know if it's worth the benefit. The streets I can understand, and I just wanted you to make sure it's going to be a burden. I got a few ideas, and maybe we can figure something out, but if that's what council wants, we'll do it.
Councilmember Miller?
Thank you, Mayor. We send out thousands of invoices a month, thousands and thousands of invoices a month, and I know anytime you put something manual in there, it just, it doesn't work. So, I mean, I feel the pain, so manual just does not work. It just, in today's day and age, yeah, so thanks for your input.
Ms. Larson, you look like you wanted to add something else.
I think the only thing I did not include in my thoughts were the current fee, the $4.50, that would not include, and no credits were taken into account in coming to that amount. And so we would want to just look at that to see the impact of any potential credit system on that total fee.
Deputy Mayor Herman?
Thank you. I guess, I don't want to take tons of time for something that maybe we aren't even going to put out there, but I think I heard in a presentation earlier tonight that whatever we take out of that $4.34 or 54 cents, because we're reducing, we're going to have to actually, that rate's actually going to go up for those other citizens then that wouldn't be getting any kind of look back or credit for, is that correct?
Yeah, and that's what Ms. Larson is alluding to. We haven't looked at what that impact to the rate would be if we put in, that type of, a credit or, so that's a level of analysis that has not been performed, and that's, I believe, what Ms. Larson was trying to get to.
Okay.
And I guess I just have a question, and that is, it was brought to our attention that perhaps there are some who will be impacted significantly more than others, and I just want to make sure that we have and are getting the word out in every means possible to, perhaps some of these nonprofit institutions or other institutions that may not have had an opportunity to respond in the short time that it's been public information.
We have not had a lot of response. There was a fairly good crowd here tonight, but that was that was specific. There were a lot of Hazel Street and Oregon Street residents here who were very much aware and alert of what's going on, because when we sent them the notice, they knew that this was in the works. So that's, other than that, we haven't gotten a lot of response. I've gotten calls from our governmental entity partners and, have explained it to them. I think Ms. Larson's gotten some calls, Mr. Robbie. So as we, we're doing press releases, social media, short of doing an individual mailing to everybody. I can't guarantee that we're going to reach everybody, but we are looking at every means possible, and I am open to any and all suggestions if you think there's a vehicle to use. But if somebody, several council members have said, well, what about this business? I think they're concerned. We've reached out and just said, I understand you have some questions. We're happy to answer them.
Councilmember Miller.
Thank you, Mayor. What I would like to do is I'd like to do another open house, and specifically let the business community know about this. I didn't see a single business owner here tonight unless I was mistaken. So I got several phone calls in the last couple of days that we're not positive, let's just say that. But I think we owe those business people another meeting.
We've been invited. Originally, Mayor Palmieri and I had a conflict, but we've worked through that conflict. So the mayor and I will be there, Ms. Larson, Mr. Robbie.
He's referring to the chamber on
The
July
Chamber's
9th.
asked, they're holding a meeting at the convention center on July 9th, which is the day of the hearing. So we'll reach out there and we'll be there to answer questions. James, I think you'll be okay.
Okay.
But Ms. Larson and I, and Mayor and
Councilmember Mugrauer.
Yeah.
Okay.
He's going to my
Mr.
place 'cause
Mr.
I have
Herman had
to
a conflict. So we can't do more than two without noticing it. So I think two would be a good turnout. We'll have two staff members. So that's, appreciate Mr. Casper setting up the meeting, and the mayor and I worked out our conflict so we can attend as well.
Thank you.
Okay, just add one thing to that. We have the West Side Association, and I know a lot of them are chamber members, but maybe we should just reach out to the West Side Association, if Mr. Castor is okay with that, to let them also come to that meeting. That way we're addressing maybe all the business community, as many of those that would like to come. So just maybe offer that opportunity
idea.
to invite the West Side Association. Because I know they've done a lot, and we've had a lot of road construction and things in their area. They've done a lot to help promote their businesses and that. And those are the two associations we really have in Oshkosh, so.
Great, thank you. Not to want to belabor anything, but is there any consensus in terms of the look back? Because as we prepare the ordinance, we can either do it as an amendment with the original ordinance that you get on the 9th, or we can put it into the ordinance. The administrative side doesn't necessarily have to get ironed out in the ordinance. We can work through that. But is there, if there's a consensus on doing a look back similar to Nina, I would presume, but I'd like some feedback, unless you want to wait until the 9th.
Councilmember Peschel.
Sure. My only feedback is that I think it's a great idea. I just would feel a little uncomfortable voting for it because I would personally benefit from it. My personal property has, in the last year, I would benefit from the lowering of my assessment, and my employer would benefit to the tune of tens of thousands of dollars.
The look back, just to clarify, the look back would be to waive the fee for that period, not the assessment. I just want to make sure everybody
No,
understands.
I understand.
It's still
I still benefit
it's not as
from
big. It's not as big because for the housing authority, that only a couple properties would be impacted.
But I have to be
Thank you
aware
for
of that.
reminding me. You're pretty
So-
sure. So, but that would be the idea. So,
And we're on Parkway, and that was done, I can't remember how many years ago, but it's somewhat recent, so I might be in the same boat.
I'm not sure how Ms. Lawrenson would opine on this one, because there was a council member who was subject to special assessment several years ago, and I believe that person was advised, because it applied to everybody in that area, it wasn't specific to
Right.
that person, and that council member was allowed to vote. Now, that was to impose special assessments. I don't know if this reverse changes your opinion on that.
I don't give ethics opinions in the open meetings.
Yeah.
So if you'd like to talk to me separately, I
Sure.
would be happy to talk to you. about it.
Councilmember Peschel.
Yeah, and I think it's important that those of us on the council, that if we have had assessments done in when we're talking about this look-back period, that we kind of express that, because I believe that there is an ethical conversation to it, to take place from it. I think we all are fairly supportive of this idea, and I think, you know, finding a way to make it so that we can be supportive of the idea in that full broad perspective of everyone benefiting from it, I think is really important. But
I'm struggling with the idea that my personal family and my personal employer who pays me to do my job would benefit from this. Though I don't benefit personally from that assessment being reduced in my employment, but I just believe that there's a conflict there that exists when we do a change like this.
So it sounds like we still need to give some direction on that
Thank you, Madam
piece of
Chair.
it. If council would weigh in. Councilmember Krause.
I would be interested in my personal opinion, of doing a 5-year look back. And like you said, Nina does like the 1-year tier, 2-year tier. I'm just good for a 5-year, going away from it for 5 years for somebody that's had a street assessment. And I'm not interested in the sidewalk squares, just the street, because a couple $100 shouldn't make a difference about that. And it's a lot of clerical work to look up all those people too, where the 100 or 150 homes should be pretty darn quick. And we should be able to get an answer in the next couple weeks how that would affect the $450 per month fee.
So as I understand that, then, Ms. Larson, that narrows it down, if we were to go that direction, to just a few hundred,
Well,
that we'd be looking at a manual
About
calculation?
$150 a year, so
Oh, per year.
$750 total.
Okay.
So $750 over a period of 5 years, they would have depending on what year that kicked in, they'd either get 1, 2, 3, 4, or 5-year waiver of their fee.
And would that only be a waiver? That's a question we got to figure out between each other too, if they're still at that property, because they could have moved away to another street that's going to get redone. Because a lot of people move, what's the average homeowner? 3 or 4 homes over their life, if not more.
Therein lies the complexity with this thing. If you're going to do it, make it as simple as possible.
Yeah.
All right. Councilmember Mugarao.
Well, just to make sure that we all have a chance to chime in, and I think we all should on this one, just to give proper direction to staff, I wouldn't be in favor of doing a look back. I can be talked into one if it's the right one, but my stance would be no.
So then, would you propose just effective 2019?
Effective now, yes, it goes into effect. If you've received a special assessment, you would be paying with no credit going forward.
If I can partially retract, maybe what I'd suggest, because of the holiday week coming up, if it would be okay with council, we'll give it to you without a look back. And by the 9th, if you can give it some thought, we can do an amendment for the 23rd, that following your wishes. That way it'll give you a little time. Some of you may wish to consult with legal counsel on something. It gives you a variety of ways to look at it. I'm not trying to stop it. James reminded me, we're darn near close to having the ordinance done, and next week is going to be just a weird week because of July 4th being smack dab in the middle of the week.
So is everybody okay with that?
Yeah.
Yes.
Thank you.
All right.
Sorry.
The 9th without the look back, and then by the 23rd,
We'll work.
we'd have,
Council, yeah.
But you'll have the basic ordinance in front of you on the 9th. Thank you. Sorry about that.
No, makes sense.
Okay. Thank you. Appreciate the feedback.
and July 23rd, we have a workshop on boards and commissions, including the updated alternate ordinance, 5 to 6 p.m., room 404. Anything else on that? All right. Looks like we'll have, what, about 45, well, a full hour for that, city manager?
45 minutes, yeah.
All right.
And what I will do is I will forward council a copy of the previous board and commission study so that you all have it for reference with new members, and you don't need it? No. Okay.
You already
must
have it?
Yeah. Oh, did we give it to you when you?
Councilmember Miller, did you get it? So
Did I
both
get
the
it?
diversity coordinator study and the boards and commission study?
I don't know if I have the diversity one.
Because
I'll get
that
it for
had
you.
reference
Yeah.
to some boards and commissions in
Okay.
the end of that study.
Okay,
Okay?
thank you.
And then, Mr. McGrawer, you have something on personal property tax?
Yes, thank you, Madam Mayor. Last meeting, I asked for this to be put on the agenda. League of Wisconsin Municipalities is in the process, I think, of getting behind or supporting some possible legislation at the state level to remove or eliminate the personal property tax. And I know through budget discussions and discussions with City Manager Roloff, it's something he's talked about many times, that with the amount of exemptions that the state continues to put into that, the burden that it places on our business owners, it is a massive burden. In fact, most times it costs more for them to actually do the accounting than the tax that they pay. That it may be appropriate for us to possibly get behind and put forward a resolution just of support of removal of the personal property tax in the state of Wisconsin, and to maybe even encourage city staff, whether it's Finance Director Larson and or Mr. Roloff, to, if they choose, to maybe take an active role in advocating for that for the municipalities. And thought that maybe that was an appropriate discussion that the council should have and possibly give some direction or way in.
Councilmember Miller?
Thank you, Mayor. I couldn't agree more. The personal property tax has been bastardized so much that it's useless to most municipalities, isn't it, Mark? I mean,
There's still a stake in this. We have it's about 4% of our value, but it's chasing a lot of things. The league is opposed to the personal property proposal on the table right now, but we've discussed it with, I've discussed it with Mr. DeShane, Mr. Watinsky. If they're willing to backfill the loss to cities, make us whole on whatever they take away, and put in an inflationary factor so that we're not, so that we get some growth out of it, then we're made whole, and then a little, as time goes on, we don't lose that. That's really the provision, and if we can do that, I think there is value, because it's literally and figuratively that death by 1,000 cuts. They've been cutting it so much. We're spending a lot of effort. You know, we've talked about administratively chasing special assessments. Doing assessments on personal property takes twice as much work as it does for just regular real estate, easily. So, something to consider.
Okay, so then the next item we have is workshop on policy for acquiring and disposing of real estate.
This was one of the council goals for me, and this is a matter of setting a date and time. We've already committed the 23rd, and I think it'll probably be too early to do it on the 9th unless that's council's desire. I think it's a little tight. So we're probably looking at August. Well, let's take a look at, August 13th would be the next earliest. We do have a 5th Tuesday in July, but that's our budget workshop night, as you'll find out in a moment. So I'm thinking August 13th, if that's fine. And we'll figure out a 5 o'clock start.
Say the date again?
August 13th,
August
5 p.m.
13th,
All right.
just
For-
before the council meeting.
Thank you.
Real
Okay.
estate. All right, next is our second opportunity for citizen statements to council. Do we have anyone registered?
No one is registered.
All right, thank you. Council member announcements and statements. I don't have any listed, but I do want to at least share this public service announcement regarding Feeding the Hungry Kids. It's a summer program of free lunch meal provided for children through the age of 18. Parents and guardians are welcome when accompanied by a child. These are held Monday through Friday, 11 to 12:30 at 3 different sites. I had an opportunity to meet with the people that are organizing these, and we met at St. Andrews, but that is one of the locations, so July 29th through August 30th, St. Andrews on Murdoch, and then July 15th through August 30th, First English Lutheran, and July 29th through August 30th, Our Savior's Lutheran Church. So I just wanted to share that. And then Councilmember Miller.
Thank you, Mayor. I just want to remind everybody that the fireworks are going to be down off the Pioneer Inn Island this year in the Leach Amphitheater, and the fireworks are going to be amazing. These should be the best fireworks we've had in 50 years. I know Oshkosh Motor Truck really spent a lot of money and time, and I know Wilson Jones is invested in this, so please, everybody come on out and come see the fireworks. They're going to be amazing. And you can drink in the streets over on Pioneer Drive.
Is Festival involved with that too?
Festival is, yep, you're right, Festival also.
All right, thank you. Next is city manager announcements and statements.
I'll just jump to number 39 and take off from what Councilmember Miller said. With the 4th of July celebration, we've got a map out. There, it shows where you can park at different locations throughout the downtown area. And we've actually identified some areas where you cannot park as well. Some of those areas are already restricted for parking. That's why they're on the map. I know there were some concerns about that, but they're already restricted. We just didn't want to make people think that they were, because we didn't put them on the map, that somehow you could park on those sites. So that's why the police department has so many in that north of downtown. They're already restricted. So Councilmember Miller inquired about that. I just wanted to let people know about that. But there's a lot of parking. Again, City Center has been wonderful. They're opening up their parking garage, and that'll hold, up to a couple thousand parking spaces. Would you agree? Yeah, so that's going to be a very big benefit.
Councilmember Allison Asby, do you have a question
I'm
on
sorry.
that?
I'm-
no, that's
I
okay.
kissed you out of the corner of my eye.
No, typically, I wouldn't have necessarily a comment or a question, but in regards to the 4th of July celebration, probably the biggest question that I've had is those that have boats that are in the marina by Pioneer. A lot of people want to know if they're going to have access, or are they going to have limited hours, limited access to getting to their boats?
There will be opening and closing of the bridges, but thank you for, I don't know as much about the before the show as after the show. After the show, the bridge is going to go up immediately for
No,
about.
she's talking about people getting to their boat.
Getting to their boats.
At the Pioneer, at the marina.
At
Yeah.
the Pioneer.
They're going to have access to their
The
property.
boat, the normal boat traffic will be.
No,
They'll
like
be able to get in off of 14th.
in the marina. Like, so if they're in their slip,
Is the 14th
how do
going to
they,
be open?
how are they going to be able
14th
to
they-
drive?
Oh, 14th is going to remain open.
Okay, that's what they
Yeah,
were wondering.
I'm sorry, I was
Oh,
thinking.
no, that's okay.
No, I was jumping to another one. In terms of just so people know, we're going to be doing as much as we can on social media. The bridges, immediately after the show, the bridges will open up so the boats can clear out as soon as possible. But after that 15, 20 minutes, the bridges are going to go down so that so everybody can get time to get to their car and go home. So we've got to do one or the other because we can't keep opening and closing it. It'd be nonstop. So up for 15 minutes, 20 minutes, clear out. And then once the bridge goes down, it's going to be a while before we open the bridge up again. So the boating clubs, we're going to let the boating folks know. I actually thought that's where you're going, so I'm sorry about that.
No, it was just those that wanted to know if they could drive in to the marina to actually take their boat out.
14th will remain open the whole time.
Okay, great, fantastic.
And I just want to add one little piece, reminder too, that if you are participating in any of the viewing areas where there are not garbage receptacles, please remember to take out what you bring in.
Yes, please, thank you, Mayor. We're going to just keep doing that like we do with other park events, so take home what you bring in. Thank you. Now we'll go back to item 37. This is our budget preparation calendar. It's very similar to prior years. I just want to point out a couple items. We do have a fifth Tuesday in July, or excuse me, fifth Tuesday and Wednesday. So the idea is that Wednesday, July 31st, will be our budget kickoff meeting. Pretty much talk about projections for the year. August 21, which is also a Wednesday, would be our second workshop where we get our 2018 audit as well as our 6-month financials and then some early projections and direction on priorities from council. Those are evening events, 5 to 7 p.m. Our third workshop, where generally we talk about some general overview of the CIP. I think some of the debt management issues that the council has given me with my goals will be the primary focus at that meeting on Wednesday, September 18th. And then there is also a fifth Tuesday in October. We have traditionally had all-day budget workshops, 2 days covering all the departments. We have those planned for the 28th and 29th of October, which is the fifth Tuesday, so there's no council meeting scheduled for that week. If there's any if you can't make it for any reason, please let us know. Hope this can accommodate. I know that's work schedules and a lot of other conflicts, but we tried to focus on fifth Tuesdays and take advantage of those, and fortunately, they were in July and October.
Workshop number three would be from what time to what time? Is that also a?
5 to 7.
5 to
1,
7?
2, and 3 will all be 5 to 7, and then 8 to 4:30 will be the all-day ones on workshop 4 and 5 on the 28th and 29th of October.
Councilmember Allison Osby? Oh, that was from earlier. Sorry.
Like, what did I do wrong?
And there is just a point out, there is a 6 budget workshop. It would be 5 to 7. Normally, what we do is, we have the budget hearing at 5 PM. The 6th workshop is putting final touches on the CIP and general direction from council. And the idea would be that on November 12th, in order to get the tax bills out, that's when the budget would be adopted. So that gives you an idea of what our general schedule is.
All right.
Utility billing transition status, I know Finance Director Larson is dying to give you an update on that, and has some good news, so, Trina.
So very excited to announce the city went live with Munis utility billing. What that means now is we have had 73 customers beat in the door Monday morning to sign up for citizen self-service. That's going to give them full access to their account and their usage and allow them to make account changes automatically through that program. We also are now taking credit card payments through citizen self-service. This week, we will issue our first round of email bills. We have over 500 people signed up. So I encourage, if you sign up for citizen self-service, you can also sign up for email billing. This was a huge feat for my staff. This is our 3rd implementation in 30 years. This one is the first one that has truly impacted and hit the entire city of Oshkosh. So really exciting. It's a change for our citizen customers and our utility customers, but we want them to be reaching out with anything that they might need assistance in understanding, or in looking at their new bill. We are including a how to read your bill, black and white form, but we will have a color publication available online that will be a little more easier to understand that new bill format. So a lot of good, exciting things happening in the utility world. And I don't have any more of an infomercial, but I do a dance, but I kind of did it on Monday and it wasn't very good, so I should
Just a quick
refrain.
question on that. Someone mentioned, or maybe I read this, that you could actually end up with a different account number now with the new system, and that with that new number is what you would be setting up the registration on the self-serve, right?
Excellent question. So all utility customers now do have a new customer number and account number. And so until you get your first utility bill, you won't know what that is. But if you do contact utility accounting, because you do need that for citizen self-service, they will provide those numbers to you, or it will come on your first utility bill. The other caveat that I would offer off of that, if you do banking and you have your checks issued through your bank, you'll need to go in and update that account number. So as your payments are coming through from those bank checks, we now have your new account number.
So what happens if someone forgets that and it comes in under their old account number? Is it possible they'd be paying somebody else's bill?
The customer name is provided, and so we will do and make every attempt that we can to locate the correct account number.
Thank you. But we're all 100%, everybody's on monthly billing now, right?
Everybody's on monthly billing.
And any other questions that they might have regarding the new amounts or the billing period or any of that? I think there were some concerns about it's not always the same date every month, they can reach out to utility billing at City Hall via phone, email, or at the counter, right?
Yes, so utility customers are used to their bills coming due the 20th of every month, but with the introduction of monthly utility billing, we now have 3 cycles within the same month, and each new bill is generated 30 days. And so it's 30 days from the last date of your utility bill. We did provide a billing insert, which provided all of the billing dates for our customers, but that is also available on our website if they want to look in the future and they no longer have that schedule to see when their bills will be mailed and when they will be due.
Thank you.
Thank you, Trina. In Friday's newsletter, I gave you an update. Actually, it wasn't just an update, it was brand new news that the Wisconsin Department of Transportation had given us a notice that they were going to be closing the Congress Avenue Bridge in July for 2 weeks during the daytime, a weekday daytime. That was the first we had heard of it. We heard first thing about it on Wednesday when it was brought to our attention. I had some concerns. I had some businesses that contacted me about the, number one, the virtual last-minute notice, but also peak summer season, that's very busy boat traffic even during the weekday. I reached out to Senator Fine and Representative Hintz, and I got word today that they're going to postpone that until September, October. So that'll be a less busy time. 7 a.m. to 3 p.m. on a Monday through Friday in September has a much different look on boat traffic and car traffic. So I think it'll be less disruptive to the businesses. Has to happen eventually before that bridge is closed completely for 6 months starting in December. It's work that's got to get done beforehand, and I certainly understand that. Mr. Robbie understands it.
Yeah, one thing too, I just wanted to point out, the DOT did notify us that not only will the bridge be closed, for this current work that's just been postponed till September, October, not only will it be closed to vehicle traffic, but it will also be closed to navigational traffic on the river. So you won't be able to get through, and that's why, when that became clear, that's why I think you reached out and said, whoa, what's going on?
Yeah, because a lot of businesses get boating traffic during the day, and if they can't go through that bridge, it would just completely mess them up. So I appreciate.
Did they give us the reason for what this work, this additional work is before the closure?
This work is to replace some beams that are required to actually operate the bascule section, and this is work that they must get completed before the contract work that starts in December can begin.
And so the DOT agreed to get this work done so that when they bid it out, it's done. And this would be done by DOT, and I think what happened was there was a little window of opportunity, and they're like, oh, let's close the bridge in July. And we just said, no, bad idea. And so I appreciate our local legislators jumping on it, and we got a very quick response. I mean, here it is. We brought up Friday. We heard from them on Tuesday. So I appreciate Senator Fine and Representative Hintz helping us out.
Councilmember Mugarauer.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Well, kudos to those representatives in their offices for pushing that through, and thank you to Mark, and Mr. Roloff, and staff for pushing the issue and making sure that the local impact is minimized. I would just ask that maybe work with Parks Director Mauer when it comes to late August, September, and work through the fishing clubs and all the boating partners that I know the Parks Department has, because while it's less of an impact in September, October, that's also when people are wanting to put boats away. And there's a couple marinas, not just a short throw from that bridge, that I think would probably have an impact as well. So just working on the communication with some of our partners that we have in the community as early and as often as possible.
Well stated. Thank you. And lastly, I've got the status of outstanding issues. Happy to answer any questions you might have. I put a note in this week's, the very last item. It had to do with the school district. Does the council want us to schedule a future council board meeting? We got a lot of things going on, but given some things that were discussed, so I'll talk to Ms. Cartwright's office about setting something up,
And I believe it would be here this time, right?
Yes, I think it, yeah.
The last couple times.
More
I
than
think
our
we were over
turn,
there.
but
Yeah.
it's, yeah, so so it can't be a Wednesday. So we'll look at a date that we can all meet with that. So thank you for pointing that out.
So council members should submit desired topics, or is it?
Let me get a date first. I'll
Okay.
put that on the agenda for topics for
July 9th?
For the July 9th meeting.
Okay.
Thank
Right.
you.
And Deputy Mayor Herman has a motion for closed session, I believe.
All right, thank you, Mayor. The Common Council may convene in a closed session to discuss bargaining options, strategies, parameters, and terms related to the negotiation of agreement for the redevelopment of Aviation Plaza pursuant to Section 19.85, Parent 1, Parent E of the Wisconsin State Statutes, where competitive bargaining reasons require a closed session, and discuss the mid-year review of the city manager and employee over which the Common Council has jurisdiction and exercises responsibility pursuant to Section 19.85, Parent 1, Parent C of the Wisconsin State Statutes.
Second.
Motion to adjourn.
No, we need
Second.
Vote. Second?
Please call the roll. No, all in favor?
No.
No,
Yep.
we need to
We
take,
have to take a vote on this one.
yes.
Of course.
Heschel,
Aye.
Miller,
Aye.
Allison Osby. Aye. Herman,
Aye.
Mulbauer,
Aye.
Prosey,
Aye.
Palmieri,
Aye.
carried 7.
Motion to adjourn.
Motion to adjourn.
It's 8 o'clock. We take 5.
5?